Peace. Hello there. It is Tonya Poole. I'm just coming on live for just a few minutes. As you can see by the title, What is Blocking Your Blessings? And I actually sent this message out to people who are on my email list this morning. They got that email. So you all already know the answer to what is blocking your blessings. But this is just something that I don't always come back on and share what I talked about to those who are on my email list privately, because it's something, when you opt in, that means you want a little bit more from me. But I felt like this message was something that a lot of people needed to hear at this time. Hi, April. And so what is blocking your blessings? So I want to tell a very, very quick story. Some years ago, maybe like a decade ago, 15 years ago, a teacher of mine, I call him a teacher. He was actually a pastor. And for those of you who are in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, back in the day, you may remember Pastor Otis Lockett Sr. from Evangel Fellowship. Excellent teacher, excellent teacher. I still have a lot of his tapes. He has since passed, but he was one of just a major influence in this area, and the lessons that he taught were so profound. He had a very skillful way of teaching, very artful way of teaching and getting a message across. So he was teaching one day, and he asked the congregation, he asked the audience, what is the number one thing that blocks your blessings, right? And this was, I think it was during a church service, but it was very interactive. And so people were hollering out what their answers were, what they thought their answers were. And they were like, what blocks your blessings is not having an education, not having enough information. And he was like, no. And so every time, somebody would give a different answer, the crowd was getting amped up because they were like, well, if that's not the answer, then it must be this and it must be that, And so, was it not having enough information or knowledge or education? No, it's not. Is it not having enough money, not being financially literate? And then that's what blocks your blessings, because, you lose a lot of money in the process. And he was like, no, that's not the answer. So now we all getting amped up. We like, call on me. I got the answer. And I think at some point he started passing the microphone around so people could give their answer. And everybody was so sure, my answer is the right answer. He was like, what blocks your blessings? So another person was like a lack of opportunity, not having access to education or funds or, programs and whatnot that are available to a lot of people. He was like, no. So now the crowd is crazy. And it might have been 100 people, 150 people in the audience that day. And no matter what people said, they couldn't, the answer kept being wrong. He was like, it's one word. It's one word. What is the thing? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm eating a cough drop. He was like, what's the one thing that blocks your blessings? And finally, people were giving up. We're like, just give us an answer. We tired of guessing, as you might be right now. Tired of guessing. And so finally, he was like, the answer is compromise. And at first, we were all like, whoa, compromise. And then we were like, compromise? How does compromise keep you from your blessings? How does it block your blessings? Because compromise is one of those things that we are all taught, that is the thing that good people do, right? When you're a good person, when you're considerate, when you're fair, when you're a good sport, you compromise. It can't be your way all the time. You have to consider others. You have to consider other people's opinions, other people's wants and needs. So how is compromise the number one thing that blocks your blessings? It's the people who are selfish and self-centered that need to learn how to compromise so that they can be more compassionate and more considerate. And so the teacher said, my teacher at the time said, the reason why compromise is the number one thing that blocks your blessings is because it causes you to sacrifice what you truly want for something of lesser value. And we were all like, oh man, you know what I mean? And so, you know, it really got me to thinking, you know, all of the times that we compromise, these compromises can be huge, or these compromises can be very small, but over time they can build up to a bigger problem. So we compromise great for good. You know, we compromise our greatness for just being good enough or just doing good enough. We compromise genuine love and affection for the attention of just an acquaintance or someone who won't really truly love or value or appreciate us. We compromise our sleep in order to stay up at night and worry and stress about the problems that in our lives that we're trying to figure out how we can solve. We compromise our healing in defense of our trauma, you know. And so as I began to think about this, my teacher was absolutely correct when he said that compromise is the number one thing that blocks people from their blessings. Now, of course, you know, he was speaking, this was in a church setting. So he also, you know, made the connection between, you know, when people say they want to live right or do right, or, you know, have a more moral way of living, and they compromise that for instant gratification or whatever they want in this moment. But you know, however you want to view that answer of compromise, you know, I'm pretty sure that you can look over your life and find times when you have compromised your great for good. You have compromised your better for less than. Now, I understand that there are times when certain sacrifices might be made. For example, like if you want to go back to school, then you might compromise your sleep right now so that you can study, or you might you know, sacrifice a bit of your income to pay for your tuition and things like that. I'm not talking about those kind of compromises. I'm talking about the compromises that we make that cause us to accept less in life. One of the things that I wrote to my audience this morning, I said, whatever your compromises are, I'm sure you can find several that hurt you in the long run, way more than the help you thought that they would bring. See, when we compromise, we think that, oh, it's just for the moment. It's going to, you know, it's going to help us out in the long run. But I would guess like 95% of the compromises that we make do not help us in the long term. When you compromise your sleep to stay up night after night after night worrying about problems or situations or your children or things that you just don't know how to solve, situations you don't know how to solve or address, that pattern creates a longer term problem that's bigger than what you think that compromise will get you, because that compromise is still not helping you to come up with this solution. You know, it's not helping you to come up with an answer. Actually, what it's doing is worry and stress and anxiety and high blood pressure and all of those kinds of problems, right? When we sacrifice genuine love, or when we sacrifice even our healing, the process of healing, so that we can learn to accept genuine love, because we want to defend what we went through, we want to talk about our trauma, we want to talk about our past, you know, then what we're doing is we are constantly allowing the past or the circumstances of the past to keep us from the blessings that we want. You know, so compromises then in turn turn into excuses, right? And so I want to challenge you to look over your life and ask yourself, where am I compromising my better for a little less than better? Where am I compromising my great for good? Where am I compromising, you know, my self-worth? You know, and we all do it. Nobody is exempt from making these sacrifices, but just look over your life and see, where have you made those kind of compromises, I should say. You know, none of us are exempt from making those compromises. So examine your life and see, where have I made these kinds of compromises over and over again in my life, and how has that shown up? Am I better for making that compromise? Now, again, I'm not talking about the kind of compromises when you're, for example, if you're in a healthy, loving relationship and you're finding balance, you know, but again, as I stated at the beginning of this video, that one of the things that my teacher taught was that most compromises aren't done to find balance. Most compromises happen actually because you're just tired of fighting. You're just tired of wishing, you're tired of hoping, so you settle for less. You lower the bar, you lower the standard in hopes that one day you can not have to make that compromise any longer. But in actuality, you end up making the same compromises over and over again. So that is what blocks your blessings. So if you look at the link that is attached to this live video, when you click on that link, you will, at the very top, there will be 2 options for you to choose from, and you can actually choose both. And I am sharing these with you because this is the time for us to stop the compromises, right? It's not the big compromises that blocks your blessings, Most of the time we think it's the big things like, sacrificing something really major. It's those small daily compromises that we make that we think are small and insignificant, but build up over time. It's the kind of stuff that makes you, makes you know what you want to happen in your life, but not take action because, the action that it will take for you to actually do it is just too much. It's too much discipline. It's too much structure. It's too hard. So I'm just going to keep settling for less and wishing for more. That never happens. So I highly encourage that you click the link that is attached to this live video. And when you do, you will see 2 options at the very top. The very first one is to join me and licensed therapist Neojala Hendricks Wilson tomorrow night for our fantastic, and I say fantastic because it is, I know it is so empowering, webinar, how to incorporate new coping strategies when your crisis tools no longer work. Now, when you hear the term crisis, you might think, I'm not really in a crisis, but a crisis shows up as, again, compromising your sleep for stress, day in and day out, compromising your healing for your trauma. That leads to a crisis state of being. If you find yourself constantly emotionally drained and overwhelmed, even if you are functioning through that, even if you're still able to pay your bills and you're not a criminal because of it, you haven't shown out, you could still be in a crisis state. And so what this webinar will do is not only help you to recognize what being in crisis or being overwhelmed actually looks like, but what are the actual causes for that and how to incorporate new strategies to help you, or new tools, new ways of being emotionally and mentally strong and stable and supported and well and whole. Okay, so how do you do that? That is what we will be talking about during tomorrow night's webinar. And it is a 2-hour webinar. Now, depending on when you see this, because I will actually be posting this video in several other places, just because I want you to know what blocks most people's blessings. So if you see this after the fact, then you can still click the link because Nia and I will be doing other workshops as well. But this one is taking place tomorrow, Friday, May 22nd, how to incorporate new coping strategies when your old crisis tools no longer work. That is a 2-hour webinar, and you will have the option of just getting a ticket to the webinar or attending the webinar, as well as receiving the ebook that we send out to you later to help you implement what you learned during the webinar. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2, and number 1 is open for men and women. Number 2 is for the ladies only. It is my program, my 3-part program called Break the Rules and Become Extraordinary. I'm super excited about that. I'm actually recording some courses for that today. That's why I'm all done up. And so that 3-part course is designed to help you move from being ordinary, regular, average, stuck, stagnant, just accepting life as it comes, to becoming an extraordinary woman. And I will tell you that being an extraordinary woman is not a destination. It is a journey that you are constantly growing on, but I help you to know what that looks like and what you need to do, and the top 3 rules that must be broken and how to break them so that you can become extraordinary. That 3-part course comes with over about 6 hours worth of video lessons, worksheets, and templates to help you implement what you learn. as well as the bonus webinar and ebook, The Magic of Self-Care. Now, there are payment options available for that program, and if you choose the deluxe package, then guess what? You also get a ticket to the webinar that I just mentioned that Nia Hendricks Wilson and I will be doing, how to incorporate new coping strategies when your old crisis tools no longer work. So if you get the deluxe package of Break the Rules and Become Extraordinary, you also get a ticket to that webinar. So that is the best deal that you can make. So those are the two things that I want you to do. Click the link. If you're a man or a woman, you can attend the webinar, How to Incorporate New Coping Strategies When Your Crisis Tools No Longer Work, with Mama Niajala Hendricks Wilson and I. And if you are a woman only, for the ladies only, I invite you to enroll in my program, Break the Rules and Become Extraordinary. Registration for that program closes tomorrow. So both of these programs that I just mentioned to you, the webinar and the Break the Rules and Become Extraordinary program, tomorrow is the last day to get your ticket or to enroll. So I highly encourage that you break the rule of compromise so that you can stop blocking your blessings. It's small things like that. And I want to say this here, is not about selling you something, right? I don't sit in front of this camera and do this work just solely to sell you anything. My purpose and one of the missions for my life is to create products and services that help encourage, inspire, and bless the lives of others. I do a lot of that work absolutely free, such as what I'm doing right now. But I also have these ways for you to invest in yourself, to invest in your leveling up, invest in your coming up, invest in your breakthrough, because when you make the investment, you tend to do the work. And I heard someone recently say that you appreciate what you pay for. I think that's how she phrased it. That's where you get. That's when you know that you are invested in your coming up, in whatever it is that you're wanting for your life. So I highly encourage that you click the link and get a ticket to the webinar, enroll and Break the Rules and Become Extraordinary. Now you can select the deluxe package of that e-course, and that includes a ticket to the webinar. But both opportunities for you to take advantage of those opportunities does close tomorrow, May 22nd. I am so looking forward to hearing from those of you who take these opportunities, how your lives have been enhanced, how your lives have been helped, how you have been blessed, and as a result of you doing the work. As a result of you doing the work. No more compromises. No more compromising your great for good. No more compromising your extraordinary for ordinary. No more compromising, the most for the least, No more making compromises that don't make you feel good at night, where you can't look yourself in the mirror and say, wow, I'm proud of myself for making the best choice. No more compromises. All right. So let me know, comment below which option you choose. If you're coming to the webinar, if you're enrolling in Break the Rules and Becoming Extraordinary, or if you're doing both. But also comment below how you are no longer compromising, or what compromises you have made in the past, and how you are making a conscious decision and choice to no longer make those kinds of compromises that cause you to live smaller than you are and beneath your worth. And I want to say this too. A lot of times, if we are doing well outwardly, right? Maybe we have a great job or have a certain level of prestige in our communities, or people see us in a certain light, then we compromise what we really want to do. We compromise who we really want to be because we are afraid of being ridiculed or being judged, or just being ourselves. Even that is a compromise. So you can be looking good on the outside, but if you're not, if inwardly you know that you are not being your best, if you know that you want to give of yourself in a different way, and you're only doing these other things because other people say that you should, or it looks good, or it's prestigious and whatnot, then you're compromising too. No matter what benefits are coming from that compromise, it's still a compromise that is eating at your soul. All right, so I highly encourage that today you make a proclamation to stop compromising. I'm doing the same. You know, is something that we are all working toward. But comment below the ways that you will no longer be making compromises, and then also click the link that's attached to this live video and join me and Nia Hendricks Wilson for how to incorporate new coping strategies when your old crisis tools no longer work, and also enroll and break the rules and become extraordinary. You can also learn more about both of these programs just by clicking the link there today, but know that registration for both does close tomorrow. All right, so tomorrow, May 22nd. So I gotta say the date, so you know if you're watching this later on. So that is it. Thank you so much for allowing me to share something that I learned from a very great and powerful teacher many years ago, and I so appreciate you all. And as always, until we speak again, I am wishing you so much peace and love. Thanks for watching.